The Trail of Tears, a journey of sorrow. In the early 1830s, the United States stood on the edge of change. The gold-rich lands of Georgia and the fertile valleys of the Southeast had long been home to the Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Seminole nations. But to the settlers moving westward, those lands were an opportunity, and to the government, they were a promise of expansion. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, a law that gave the federal government power to exchange native lands in the East for territory west of the Mississippi River. Though the act promised voluntary relocation, it soon became clear that force would take its place. The Cherokee Nation, under Chief John Ross, fought back, not with weapons, but with words and law. They took their case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in Worcester v. Georgia, where the court ruled in their favor, declaring that the Cherokee Nation was sovereign. But Jackson ignored the ruling, reportedly saying, "John Marshall has made his decision. I'll let him enforce it." By 1838, the U.S. Army arrived to carry out removal. Soldiers marched into Cherokee homes, often with bayonets drawn. Families were given minutes to gather what little they could before being herded into makeshift forts and camps. That autumn, under armed guard, around 16,000 Cherokee people began a forced march of over 1,200 miles from Georgia, through Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, and Arkansas, to the barren plains of Indian Territory, what is now Oklahoma. They traveled on foot through blistering heat and freezing snow. Disease, cholera, dysentery, pneumonia spread like wildfire. Food was scarce, blankets few, and shoes nearly non-existent. Mothers carried dying children. The elderly collapsed on the roadside and were left behind. The suffering was so great that soldiers themselves often wept. When the march ended in 1839, an estimated 4,000 Cherokee, a quarter of the entire nation, had perished. It was a journey of unimaginable grief and endurance. The survivors called it Nunadaltsuni, the trail where they cried. The Trail of Tears remains one of the darkest chapters in American history, a story not only of tragedy, but of resilience. The Cherokee and other nations rebuilt their lives in new lands, preserving their language, culture, and spirit against all odds. Their journey reminds us that history is not only written in victories, but in the courage of those who endured the unendurable and still stood proud.